Captain Lee Taman was drinking his morning coffee when the sky went dark. He looked up through the window of the Seoul Space Force base and saw something that made his blood run cold. Massive black shapes covered the sun like storm clouds, but these were not clouds. They were ships, alien ships. The coffee cup fell from his hand and shattered on the floor. All around the base, alarms began to ring. Red lights flashed everywhere. People ran in all directions, shouting orders and questions. Taman had been a pilot for 15 years, but he had never seen anything like this. All pilots to stations. The voice came over the speakers. This is not a drill. All pilots to stations immediately. Taman ran to the hangar where his fighter jet waited. Other pilots were already there, their faces pale with shock. Through the open hangar doors, they could see the alien ships hanging in the sky like giant metal mountains. There were hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. What are those things? Asked his wingman, Pilot Officer Park Ji-ho. His voice shook as he spoke. I don't know, Taman replied, but we're about to find out. Across the city, Dr. Park Min-ji was in her laboratory when every computer screen went blank. Then slowly words appeared in perfect Korean. The same message was appearing on every screen in the world in every language. People of Earth, the message said. We are the Draconians. You have 72 hours to surrender your planet to us. If you do not surrender, we will destroy you all. You cannot fight us. You cannot hide from us. You can only choose to live as our servants or die as our enemies. Min-ji stared at the screen. She was one of Earth's best scientists, working on quantum physics projects that most people could not even understand. But this message was simple enough for a child to read, and it terrified her. Her phone rang. It was Admiral Kim Do-hyun from Earth Defense Command. Min-ji, we need you here right now, Do-hyun said. Whatever those things are up there, we need to understand them fast. I'm on my way, she replied. At Earth Defense Command, chaos filled every room. Screens showed the alien ships positioned over every major city on the planet. New York, London, Tokyo, Mumbai, Sydney. Giant ships hung over them all like swords ready to fall. Admiral Do-hyun stood in the main command center, watching reports come in from around the world. He was a calm man who had led Earth's forces through many crises, but this was unlike anything he had ever faced. Sir, called Lieutenant Choi Hana from her communication station. We're picking up transmissions from the alien ships. They're not trying to hide their signals. Can you understand what they're saying? Do-hyun asked. I'm working on it, sir. The language is strange, but their technology is incredible. They're using quantum communication methods that we thought were impossible. On the screens around them, news reports showed people in the streets looking up at the alien ships. Some people were running and screaming. Others stood frozen in fear. A few were praying. Then something happened that changed everything. A single beam of bright blue light came down from one of the ships over the Pacific Ocean. It hit a military satellite that had been trying to scan the alien fleet. The satellite simply disappeared. No explosion, no debris. One moment it was there, and the next moment it was gone. My God, whispered someone in the command center. The alien ships had just shown what they could do, and it was terrifying. Dr. Min-ji arrived at the command center an hour later. She immediately went to work studying the readings from the alien ships. What she found made her heart race. Admiral, she said, these ships are using quantum technology that's far beyond anything we have. But there's something strange about their energy signatures. What do you mean? Do-hyun asked. They're all connected somehow. Every ship is sending and receiving signals to every other ship at the same time. It's like they're all part of one giant brain. Meanwhile, Captain Taman was in the air with his squadron, flying patrol around Seoul. The alien ships were so large that his fighter jet looked like an insect next to them, but he had orders to get close and gather information. Stay together, he told his pilots over the radio. Don't do anything aggressive. We're just looking. As they flew closer to the nearest alien ship, Taman could see details that made his stomach turn. The ship was covered in what looked like black scales, like the skin of a huge snake or lizard. Strange symbols glowed along its sides, and weapons that he couldn't identify pointed in all directions. Taman, came Ji-ho's voice over the radio. Are you seeing this? I see it, Taman replied. And I wish I didn't. Back on the ground, Lieutenant Hana was making progress with the alien communications. She had managed to decode some of their transmissions, and what she learned made her hands shake. Admiral, she called out, I've got something. The aliens are talking about Earth like it's already theirs. They're discussing how to divide up our planet and our people. What else? Do-hyun asked. They keep mentioning something called the conquest pattern. It sounds like they've done this before, sir. Many times. Around the world, governments were trying to respond to the crisis. The United Nations called an emergency meeting. Military forces were put on high alert. Scientists worked desperately to understand the alien technology, but everyone knew the truth that no one wanted to say out loud. Humanity was facing something far beyond their ability to fight. The aliens had technology that could make satellites disappear with a single beam. They had ships that could travel between stars. They had weapons that no human had ever imagined, and they had given Earth 72 hours to surrender. As the first day ended, people around the world watched the news with growing fear. The alien ships had not moved. They had not attacked again. They simply waited in the sky like patient predators, confident that their prey had no escape. In Seoul, Captain Taman landed his fighter and walked slowly to the debriefing room. He had seen the enemy up close, and he knew that conventional weapons would be useless against them. In her laboratory, Dr. Minji stared at the data from the alien ships and tried to find some weakness, some hope for humanity. In the command center, Admiral Do-hyun planned strategies that he knew would probably fail. And somewhere in the darkness of space, the Draconian commander Vorthak looked down at the blue planet below and smiled with satisfaction. Soon, Earth would join the long list of worlds that had fallen before the might of the Draconian Empire. The 72-hour countdown had begun. The second day brought no relief. The alien ships still filled the sky over every major city on Earth. Admiral Kim Do-hyun had not slept for 36 hours. His eyes were red and tired, but his mind was sharp. He stood in the war room surrounded by generals and scientists from every nation on Earth. "Report," he said to Lieutenant Choi Hana. "Sir, the aliens have started landing troops in 12 cities," Hana replied. "London, Paris, Moscow, Beijing, Tokyo, New York, Los Angeles, Cairo, Sydney, Mumbai, São Paulo, and Lagos. Their soldiers are unlike anything we expected." On the main screen, video feeds showed the Draconian ground forces. The aliens were nearly 3 meters tall, covered in black scales that seemed to absorb light. Their eyes glowed yellow like burning coals. They carried weapons that looked like curved swords made of pure energy. "Our forces engaged them in London 2 hours ago," said General Morrison from the British Army. "We lost everything: tanks, helicopters, infantry. Their personal shields stopped every bullet, every missile. And their weapons?" He paused, his face pale. "Their weapons cut through our armor like it was paper." Dr. Park Minji looked up from her computer. She had been analyzing the data from every encounter with the aliens. "Admiral, I think I'm beginning to understand their technology. It's all connected through quantum entanglement." "Explain it simply," Do-hyun said. "Imagine if every alien soldier, every ship, every weapon was connected by invisible threads," Minji explained. "They can all share information instantly across any distance. That's how they coordinate so perfectly." Captain Lee Taman entered the room. His flight suit was still damp with sweat from his latest reconnaissance mission. "Admiral, I've been flying around their ships for hours. There's something you need to know." "What is it?" "They have moments of vulnerability," Taman said. "Brief seconds when their shields flicker. It happens when they're communicating with each other." "The quantum signals Dr. Minji mentioned?" Minji's eyes lit up. "That makes sense. The quantum communication requires enormous energy. For just a moment, they have to redirect power from their shields." "How long are these moments?" Do-hyun asked. "Less than a second each time," Taman replied. "But it happens regularly, every few minutes." Around the world, the situation was getting worse. In Beijing, Draconian soldiers had taken control of the government district. In New York, their ships had landed in Central Park, turning it into a military base. Everywhere they appeared, human resistance crumbled within hours. Lieutenant Hana was listening to alien communications through her headset. She had learned enough of their language to understand basic concepts. What she heard made her heart sink. "Admiral," she said quietly, "they're talking about harvesting." "Harvesting what?" Do-hyun asked. "Us, sir, humans. They see us as resources to be collected and used. This isn't just conquest. It's farming." The room fell silent. Every person there understood what that meant. But Dr. Minji was not listening to the conversation. She was staring at her computer screen, where quantum energy readings from the alien ships created patterns of light. Something about those patterns looked familiar. "Wait," she said suddenly. "I know these frequencies." Everyone turned to look at her. 2 years ago, my team was working on quantum entanglement communication, she continued. We were trying to create an instant communication network for Earth's space forces. The project failed because we couldn't control the quantum resonance. But these alien signals, they're using the same frequency ranges we discovered. What does that mean? Do-hyun asked. It means their quantum network operates on the same principles as our failed experiment. And if I remember correctly, we found a way to disrupt those frequencies. For the first time in 2 days, Admiral Do-hyun felt a spark of hope. Meanwhile, Captain Taemin was preparing for another reconnaissance flight. His squadron had been reduced from 12 pilots to 8. 4 of his friends had been shot down while trying to get close to the alien ships. Be careful out there, said Park Ji-ho, his wingman. These things are getting more aggressive. I know, Taemin replied. But we need more information about their weak moments. Dr. Minji thinks she can find a way to exploit them. As Taemin took off, he thought about his family in Busan. His wife and daughter were probably hiding in their basement right now. Like millions of other families around the world, he had to succeed. There was no other choice. Flying toward the massive alien ship over Seoul, Taemin activated every sensor his fighter jet had. He needed to record the exact timing of the shield fluctuations. The alien ship was like a flying mountain of black metal and scales. Strange symbols glowed along its surface, and Taemin could see smaller ships moving around it like insects around a hive. His radar detected the quantum communication burst just before it happened. For exactly 0.7 seconds, the alien ship's shields disappeared. Then they returned to full strength. Got it, Taemin said into his radio. Dr. Minji, are you receiving this data? Yes, came Minji's voice from the command center. Perfect timing, Taemin. I can work with this. Back at the command center, Minji was connecting her computer to Earth's most powerful quantum laboratory. If her theory was correct, she might be able to create a quantum disruptor that could interfere with the alien network. Admiral, she said, I need access to the quantum facility in Geneva, and I need all the quantum physicists we can find. You'll have them, Do-hyun replied. What do you need them to do? Build a weapon unlike anything humanity has ever created, Minji said. A weapon that attacks information instead of matter. Lieutenant Hana suddenly looked up from her communication station. Admiral, something's happening. The alien communications are changing. What do you mean? They're preparing for something big. Mass troop deployments to major population centers. They mentioned something called final processing beginning in 18 hours. Do-hyun felt his blood turn cold. How many troops? Hundreds of thousands, sir. Maybe millions. They're going to occupy every major city on Earth simultaneously. The war room erupted in urgent conversations. Generals called their forces. Scientists discussed desperate theories. Communications officers tried to coordinate with governments around the world, but Do-hyun focused on Dr. Minji. How long do you need to build this quantum disruptor? With the right team and equipment, maybe 12 hours, she replied. But Admiral, this is all theoretical. I don't know if it will work. It has to work, Do-hyun said, because it's the only plan we have. Captain Taemin landed his fighter and immediately went to find Dr. Minji. He had an idea that might help her weapon work. Doctor, he said, what if we don't just disrupt their communications from the ground? What if we get the disruptor directly onto their main ship? That would be incredibly dangerous, Minji replied. You'd have to get past all their defenses. I've been flying around their ships for 2 days, Taemin said. I know their patrol patterns. And if your disruptor works, it might be our only chance to stop them before they start their final processing. Dr. Minji looked at the pilot's determined face and realized he was right. A ground-based disruptor might not be powerful enough to affect the entire alien fleet, but if they could place it directly on the command ship, it would be a suicide mission, she said. Maybe, Taemin replied, but if we don't try, billions of people will die anyway. Admiral Do-hyun overheard the conversation and joined them. The 3 of them looked at each other, understanding that they were discussing humanity's last desperate gamble. Outside, the alien ships continued their patient wait. In 18 hours, they would begin the final subjugation of Earth. But in a laboratory in Switzerland, and in the mind of a brave pilot, humanity's response was taking shape. The countdown continued, but now Earth was preparing to fight back. Dr. Park Minji had not slept for 48 hours. Her eyes burned from staring at computer screens, but she could not stop working. In the quantum laboratory in Geneva, she led a team of the world's best scientists in the most important project in human history. The quantum frequency patterns are becoming clearer, said Dr. Chen Wei, a physicist from Beijing. The aliens use quantum entanglement not just for communication, but for everything. Their weapons, their shields, even their life support systems. That's what I suspected, Minji replied. They've built their entire civilization around quantum technology. But that also means they have a single point of failure. Around the laboratory, 12 scientists worked at computer terminals, analyzing data from the alien ships. They had only 10 hours left before the aliens began their final attack on Earth's population centers. Look at this pattern, said Dr. Sarah Thompson from London. Every alien ship sends a quantum pulse to the command vessel every 37 seconds. It's like a heartbeat. Minji studied the data on the main screen. The pattern was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Lines of quantum energy connected every alien ship to every other ship, with the largest vessel at the center of the network. It's not just a communication system, she realized. It's a control system. The command ship is literally controlling every other ship in the fleet. At Earth Defense Command, Admiral Kim Do-yeon was coordinating the planet's defenses. Every remaining military unit was being positioned for what everyone knew would be humanity's final battle. Status report, he said to Lieutenant Choi Hana. Sir, the aliens have increased their troop deployments. We estimate over 2 million Draconian soldiers are now on Earth's surface. Our conventional forces have been unable to stop them anywhere. Captain Lee Taman entered the command center. He had been testing a modified fighter jet that Dr. Minji's team had equipped with quantum scramblers. Admiral, he said, the quantum scramblers work, but only for short periods. I can stay invisible to their sensors for maybe 10 minutes before the scramblers overload. Is that enough time to reach their command ship? Do-yeon asked. If everything goes perfectly, yes. But there's another problem. The command ship is massive. It's not just a ship, Admiral. It's more like a flying city. Finding the right place to plant the disruptor will be almost impossible. Dr. Minji's voice came over the communication system from Geneva. Admiral, we've made a breakthrough. The alien quantum network has a critical weakness. Explain, Do-yeon said. Their entire fleet operates as a single organism, Minji said. Every ship depends on constant quantum signals from the command vessel. If we can disrupt those signals at the source, the entire fleet will lose coordination. How do we disrupt the signals? We've built a quantum cascade disruptor. It's designed to create feedback loops in their quantum network, but it has to be placed directly on the command ship's quantum core. Where is the quantum core located? Taman asked. Based on our analysis of their energy signatures, it should be at the center of the command ship. But Captain, there's something else you need to know. The quantum core is probably a living organism. The room fell silent. What do you mean living? Do-yeon asked. The alien ships aren't just machines, Minji explained. They're biomechanical entities. Part machine, part living creature. The quantum core is likely the brain of the command ship. You'll be planting the disruptor inside a living alien organism. Captain Taman felt his stomach turn, but his voice remained steady. How big is this quantum core? Probably the size of a building. Maybe larger, and it will be heavily defended. Lieutenant Hana looked up from her communication station. Admiral, the aliens are sending new transmissions. They're accelerating their timeline. Final processing begins in 6 hours, not 18. Minji, Do-yeon said urgently, is the disruptor ready? We're making the final adjustments now. It will be ready in 2 hours. But Admiral, we only get one chance at this. If the disruptor fails or if Captain Taman can't place it correctly, the aliens will adapt their quantum frequencies. We won't be able to surprise them again. Around the world, humanity prepared for its darkest hour. In the cities occupied by alien forces, people hid in basements and underground tunnels. Military units that had survived the initial encounters prepared for desperate last stands. In London, General Morrison watched alien ships landing in Hyde Park. Thousands of Draconian soldiers were setting up what looked like processing facilities. What are they building? Asked his aide. I don't want to know, Morrison replied. In Beijing, similar scenes were playing out. Giant alien machines were being assembled in Tiananmen Square. The machines hummed with energy and had large chambers that could hold hundreds of humans. Dr. Minji finished the quantum disruptor just as the sun was setting over Geneva. The device was smaller than she had expected, about the size of a briefcase. but inside its metal casing was technology that could either save humanity or fail spectacularly. "It's ready," she told Admiral Do-hyun over the communication link. "But Captain Taemin needs to understand how to activate it." "I'm listening," Taemin said. "There are 3 components that must be placed at specific points around the quantum core. Each component will lock onto the alien quantum frequency and begin building a feedback loop. When all 3 are in place, you activate the master control. How long will I have once I start the sequence?" 60 seconds. After that, the cascade will begin and the quantum feedback will destroy the core. And probably everything within a kilometer of it. Taemin was quiet for a moment. "Doctor, what are the chances of survival for someone inside that radius?" Dr. Minji's voice was barely a whisper. "0, Captain." "I'm sorry." Admiral Do-hyun felt his heart break. Captain Taemin was one of his best pilots and a good friend. But they all knew what had to be done. "Taemin," Do-hyun said, "you don't have to do this. We can find another way." "No, Admiral," Taemin replied. "This is the only way, and someone has to do it." In her laboratory, Dr. Minji was making final checks on the quantum disruptor components. She thought about her daughter, who was probably hiding with millions of other children around the world. If this plan failed, none of them would survive. "The disruptor is calibrated to the alien quantum frequencies," she told her team. "If Captain Taemin can place all 3 components correctly, the cascade should spread through their entire network within minutes." "What will happen to the alien ships?" asked Dr. Chen. "They'll lose all coordination. Their weapons will stop working. Their shields will fail. But more importantly, they'll lose their connection to each other. Each ship will become isolated and confused." Lieutenant Hana was monitoring alien communications when she heard something that made her blood run cold. "Admiral," she called out, "the aliens are talking about something called harvesting protocols. They're preparing to begin collecting humans in mass numbers. Children first." The words hit everyone in the command center like a physical blow. Captain Taemin stood up. "Get me that disruptor. I'm leaving in 1 hour." "Taemin," Admiral Do-hyun said, "there might be a way to survive this. If you can get far enough from the quantum core before the cascade begins." "Admiral, we both know that's not realistic. The command ship is enormous and will be crawling with aliens. I'll be lucky to place the components, never mind escape." Dr. Minji's voice came over the speakers. "Captain, I want you to know that you're carrying the hopes of every person on Earth. If this works, you'll have saved our entire species. And if it doesn't work? Then at least we went down fighting." Outside, the alien ships prepared for their final assault on humanity. Inside the command vessel, Vorthak the Conqueror reviewed the harvesting plans with satisfaction. Soon Earth's population would be processed and the planet would join the Draconian Empire. But in a small fighter jet being fitted with quantum scramblers and loaded with humanity's last hope, Captain Lee Taemin prepared for a mission that would either make him the greatest hero in human history or the last person to die trying to save his species. The final countdown had begun. The moment Captain Lee Taemin pressed the switch, the quantum core began to scream. It was not a sound that human ears could hear, but rather a vibration that went through every atom in the chamber. The 3 disruptor components that Taemin had placed around the core started glowing brighter and brighter, building quantum feedback loops that spread like wildfire through the alien ship's nervous system. Vorthak the Conqueror stepped backward, his burning eyes wide with something Taemin had never expected to see on an alien face. "Fear. What have you done?" Vorthak demanded. "Something you never thought was possible," Taemin replied. "We broke your perfect system." The quantum core's rainbow patterns became chaotic, swirling faster and faster as the feedback loops multiplied. The organic walls of the chamber began to shake, and the spider-like security creatures fell from the ceiling, their systems overloaded by the quantum cascade. At Earth Defense Command, Dr. Park Minji watched her computer screens with growing excitement and terror. The quantum readings from the alien command ship were off the charts. "Admiral," she called to Kim Do-hyun, "it's working. The quantum cascade is spreading through their entire network. What's happening to their fleet?" Do-hyun asked. Lieutenant Choi Hana looked up from her communications station, her face filled with amazement. "Sir, the alien ships are losing formation. Their communications are cutting out. They're just floating there." Around the world, the effects of the quantum cascade became visible within minutes. In London, The Draconian soldiers who had been systematically destroying human resistance suddenly stopped moving. Their weapons powered down, their shields flickered and failed. General Morrison, who had survived the earlier battle by hiding in the ruins of Parliament, watched in disbelief as the alien processing machines simply shut down. "My God," he whispered into his radio. "Their equipment is dead. All of it." In Beijing, Moscow, New York, and every other city where alien forces had landed, the same thing was happening. The Draconian soldiers stood frozen like statues, their quantum-powered technology failing all at once. Back on the command ship, Vorthak was experiencing something no Draconian commander had ever faced. The quantum link that connected him to his fleet, to his soldiers, to his very identity was dissolving. "Impossible," he said, staggering as the ship shook around them. "We are connected. We are one mind, one purpose. You cannot break what has existed for 1,000 years. We just did," Taman said. He looked at his watch. 30 seconds until the quantum cascade reached critical mass. 30 seconds until the core exploded and took everything within a kilometer with it. But something strange was happening. Instead of exploding, the quantum core was beginning to fade. The rainbow lights inside its crystalline structure were becoming transparent, as if the core was losing its grip on reality itself. Dr. Minji's voice crackled over Taman's radio, distorted by quantum interference. "Captain, the cascade is creating dimensional instabilities. The alien quantum network isn't just failing, it's being pushed out of our reality." "What does that mean?" Taman asked. "It means the Draconians and their ships are being displaced into quantum dimensions we can't even understand. They're not being destroyed, they're being exiled." Vorthak heard these words and his alien face showed pure terror. No, not the void dimensions. Anything but that. The command ship around them was becoming translucent. Taman could see through the walls to the stars beyond. The entire vessel was fading from normal space-time. "Captain," Admiral Doyun's voice came over the radio. "We're seeing the same thing happening to every alien ship on Earth. They're becoming transparent and then disappearing." Taman looked at Vorthak, who was also beginning to fade. "Where are you going?" "To dimensions where thought becomes reality and reality becomes nightmare," Vorthak replied, his voice echoing strangely. "We will exist, but we will never return. You have banished us to eternal exile." "Good," Taman said. But as the ship continued to fade around him, Taman realized something important. His fighter jet was still solid. He was still completely real. The quantum cascade was only affecting the Draconians and their technology. "Dr. Minji," he said urgently, "I think I can escape. The cascade isn't affecting human technology." "Run, Captain," she replied. "You have maybe 2 minutes before the ship completely phases out of our dimension." Taman sprinted back toward his fighter jet. Around him, the command ship was becoming a ghost of itself. Alien crew members phased in and out of visibility like bad television reception. The organic corridors were translucent enough that he could see space through them. He reached his fighter just as the landing platform began to fade beneath it. Jumping into the cockpit, he started the engines and shot toward the exit tunnel he had used to enter the ship. Behind him, Vorthak's voice echoed through the fading command ship. "Tell your people, human. Tell them that the Draconian Empire remembers. Someday we will find a way back." "I'll be sure to mention that," Taman replied, guiding his fighter through corridors that were now more energy than matter. He burst out of the command ship just as it completed its transition to quantum exile. The massive biomechanical vessel hung in space like a mirage, visible but not quite real. Then with a silent flash of rainbow light, it vanished completely. Around the Earth, the same thing happened to every Draconian ship. Over New York, London, Beijing, Tokyo, and hundreds of other cities, the alien vessels simply faded away like morning mist. At Earth Defense Command, cheers erupted from every station. Lieutenant Hana was crying with relief as she reported clear skies over every major city. "All alien contacts lost," she announced. "No ships, no soldiers, no signals. They're gone." Admiral Doyun slumped in his chair, emotionally exhausted. "Casualties?" "Still counting, sir. But preliminary reports suggest that most of the Draconian ground forces vanished along with their ships. The few that were left behind are unconscious and unresponsive. Dr. Minji was analyzing the quantum readings from around the globe. Admiral, the quantum cascade worked better than we hoped. The aliens didn't just lose their technology. They've been pushed into parallel dimensions where the laws of physics operate differently. They're trapped there, For how long? Possibly forever. Without their quantum network, they have no way to navigate between dimensions. They're lost in quantum space. Captain Taman landed his fighter at the Sol base to find hundreds of people waiting for him. Ground crews, pilots, scientists, and even civilians who had somehow learned what he had done. As he climbed out of his cockpit, the crowd began to cheer. Admiral Do-yun was the first to reach him. "Captain, you've saved our entire species." "We all did, Admiral. Everyone who fought, everyone who sacrificed. I just planted the devices that Dr. Minji built." 3 months later, life on Earth had returned to something approaching normal. The alien processing facilities had vanished along with their creators, leaving no trace except for the memories of the people who had lived through humanity's darkest hour. Dr. Minji had been promoted to head of Earth's new Quantum Defense Division. Using technology learned from studying the alien quantum signatures, humanity was developing defenses against any future invasion. Captain Taman, now Admiral Taman, stood in the command center of Earth's first quantum-powered starship. Humanity was no longer content to wait for aliens to come to them. They were going to explore the galaxy and make sure everyone knew that Earth was not defenseless. "Admiral," said his communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from the Alpha Centauri system. It appears to be from another alien species." "Put it through," Taman said. The message was simple and respectful. "People of Earth, we have heard of your victory over the Draconian Empire. We wish to establish peaceful relations and trade agreements. Please respond when convenient." Taman smiled. Word was spreading across the galaxy that humanity had somehow made an entire Draconian fleet disappear overnight. Other alien civilizations were being very polite in their first contact attempts. "Send a reply," he told his communications officer. "Tell them we're interested in peaceful contact. But make sure they understand that Earth is under our protection." Lieutenant Hana, who had been promoted to his senior communications officer, looked up from her station. "Sir, should I mention what happened to the Draconians?" "No need," Taman replied. "I think they already know." In a quantum dimension far from normal space-time, Vorthak the Conqueror stood on the bridge of his command ship and stared into the swirling chaos of quantum energy that surrounded them. His fleet was intact, his soldiers were alive, but they were trapped in a realm where their technology barely functioned and escape was impossible. For the first time in 1,000 years of conquest, the Draconian Empire had been defeated. Not destroyed, but banished to a place where they could harm no one. "Commander," said one of his officers, "our quantum engineers believe they may be able to find a way back to normal space, but it could take centuries." "Then we wait," Vorthak replied, "and we remember the humans who did this to us. Someday we will return." But even as he said the words, Vorthak knew the truth. The humans had not just defeated the Draconian Empire, they had made it irrelevant. By the time his people found their way back to normal space, humanity would be spread across the galaxy. "Thanks for you." Captain Lee Taman climbed into his modified fighter jet as alarms rang across the Earth Defense Base. The quantum disruptor components were secured in a special compartment behind his seat. Each piece was the size of a textbook and hummed with energy that made his teeth ache. "Final systems check," he said into his radio. "All green, Captain," replied the ground crew chief. "The quantum scramblers are online. Dr. Minji says you'll be invisible to their sensors for exactly 11 minutes. "Understood." Taman looked at his watch. Around the world, Earth's remaining military forces were beginning their desperate diversion attacks. They would sacrifice themselves to give him a chance to reach the alien command ship. Admiral Kim Do-yun's voice came over the radio. "Taman, the global attack begins in 60 seconds. Every ship, every plane, every soldier we have left will hit the aliens simultaneously. You'll have maximum confusion to slip through their defenses." "Thank you, Admiral, for everything. Bring our people home, Captain." Taman started his engines and taxied to the runway. Through his canopy, he could see the massive alien command ship hanging over Sol like a dark moon. It was 3 times larger than any other ship in the fleet, covered in the same black scales as the smaller vessels. Strange lights pulsed along its surface in patterns that hurt to look at directly. "Launching in 10 seconds, he said. Around the world, the coordinated attack began. In London, General Morrison led his remaining tanks in a charge against the alien processing facilities. In Beijing, fighter jets dove at alien ships in suicide runs. In New York, soldiers with rocket launchers emerged from subway tunnels to attack Draconian ground forces. The aliens responded with devastating efficiency. Their energy weapons cut through human aircraft and tanks like they were made of paper. But the sheer scale of the simultaneous attacks forced them to focus on defense rather than their harvesting operations. Taman's fighter shot into the sky just as the quantum scramblers activated. Immediately his plane vanished from alien sensors. He was invisible, but only for 11 minutes. "Quantum scrambler active," he reported. Beginning approach to the command ship. The alien vessel was even more massive up close. As Taman flew toward it, he could see details that made his skin crawl. The ship's surface wasn't just covered in scales, it was breathing. The entire command ship was a living creature, a biomechanical monster the size of a city. "My God," he whispered. Dr. Park Minji's voice crackled over his radio. "Captain, do you see the pulsing lights on the ship's surface?" "Yes, they're arranged in geometric patterns. Those are neural pathways. The ship is not just alive, it's intelligent. You're flying toward the brain of a creature that's larger than most cities." Taman forced himself to focus on the mission. "Where do I need to enter?" "Look for an opening that glows brighter than the others. That should be a major neural junction. You can follow the pathways from there to reach the quantum core." Flying closer to the command ship's surface, Taman saw what Dr. Minji meant. Among the thousands of pulsing lights, one area glowed like a small sun. As he approached, he could see it was an opening in the ship's hull, lined with what looked like nerve endings. "Found the entry point," he said. "It looks like the mouth of some deep-sea creature." "That's probably exactly what it is," Minji replied. "Be careful, Captain. We don't know what kind of defenses are inside." Taman guided his fighter into the opening. The walls around him pulsed with bioluminescent light, and he could hear a deep thrumming sound that seemed to come from everywhere at once. It was the heartbeat of the living ship. His fighter's lights illuminated a tunnel that stretched ahead into darkness. The walls were covered in a mixture of organic tissue and metal technology. Cables and blood vessels ran side by side, creating a nightmare fusion of biology and machinery. "I'm inside," he reported, following what looks like a main corridor toward the center of the ship. "Captain," came Lieutenant Choi Hana's voice from Earth Defense Command. "The diversion attacks are taking heavy casualties. General Morrison's force has been completely destroyed. Beijing reports losing 80% of their aircraft." "How much time do I have left on the scramblers?" 7 minutes, 30 seconds. Taman pushed his fighter deeper into the living ship. The corridor began to branch into multiple passages, each one pulsing with different colored lights. He chose the path with the brightest glow, hoping it would lead to the quantum core. As he flew deeper, he began to see other things moving in the passages. Creatures that looked like a cross between insects and machines crawled along the walls. They ignored his fighter, apparently unable to see through the quantum scramblers. "Dr. Minji," he said, "I'm seeing organic maintenance creatures inside the ship. They look like they're part of the ship's biological systems." "That makes sense," she replied. "A living ship this size would need an immune system. Try not to damage anything unnecessarily. We don't want to trigger defensive responses." Taman's radar detected a large open space ahead. As he flew toward it, the tunnel opened into a vast chamber that made him gasp. The quantum core was beautiful and terrible at the same time. It was a sphere of living tissue and crystal technology, suspended in the center of the chamber by thick organic cables. The sphere was easily 50 meters across, pulsing with quantum energy that created rainbow patterns in the air around it. This was the brain of the command ship, the nerve center that controlled the entire Draconian fleet. "I found it," he said. "The quantum core. It's incredible." "Captain," Dr. Minji's voice was urgent. "You have 4 minutes of scrambler time left. You need to land and place the disruptor components now." Taman looked for a place to land his fighter. The chamber floor was covered in what looked like nerve tissue, but there was a metal platform near the base of the quantum core. He set his fighter down gently, trying not to damage the sensitive biological systems around him. As he climbed out of his cockpit, the quantum disruptor components in hand, the chamber around him hummed with alien energy. The air itself seemed thick with quantum fields that made his skin tingle. "Disruptor components armed," he reported. "Beginning placement sequence." The first component had to be placed at the base of the quantum core. As Taman approached the massive sphere, he could see patterns of light moving through its crystalline structure. It was like looking at thoughts made visible. He attached the first disruptor to a cluster of quantum resonators at the core's base. Immediately, the device began to sync with the alien frequencies. First component active, he reported. 2 more to go, Dr. Minji said. You need to place them at 90-degree intervals around the core. Taman ran along the organic platforms that surrounded the quantum core. The second component went onto a neural cluster halfway up the sphere's surface. As he attached it, the core's pulsing changed slightly, as if it was beginning to sense something was wrong. Second component active. The core is reacting to the disruptors. That's normal, Minji replied. But hurry, Captain. You have 90 seconds of scrambler time left. As Taman moved toward the position for the third component, alarms began to sound throughout the chamber. The living ship had detected the foreign devices attached to its brain. Captain, Admiral Dohyun's voice was tense. The alien ships over Earth are changing their formations. They know something is happening. Taman reached the third placement point just as organic security systems began emerging from the chamber walls. Creatures that looked like metallic spiders with glowing eyes started crawling toward him. Company's coming, he said, attaching the final disruptor component. All 3 components active, Dr. Minji confirmed. Captain, you need to activate the master control now. Once you do, you'll have 60 seconds before the quantum cascade begins. Taman pulled out the master control device. It was a simple switch, but pressing it would start a chain reaction that would destroy the quantum core and everything around it. Behind him, the spider creatures were getting closer. Above him, the quantum core was pulsing faster as if it was calling for help. Quantum scrambler failing, he reported. I'm about to become visible to their sensors. Captain, came a new voice over the radio. It was deep and alien speaking perfect Korean. Captain Lee Taman of the Korean Space Force. Taman spun around. Standing at the entrance to the chamber was a Draconian unlike any he had seen before. This one was larger than the others, with scales that seemed to absorb light and eyes that glowed like stars. This had to be their commander. I am Vorthak the Conqueror, the alien said. I have ruled over the conquest of 47 worlds. And you, little human, are the first creature to penetrate this far into my command ship. Well, Taman said, holding up the master control, I always wanted to be remembered for something. Vorthak studied him with those burning eyes. Your species confuses me, human. We offered you life as servants. Why do you choose death as enemies? Because, Taman said, sometimes choosing how you die is the only freedom you have left. And with that, he pressed the switch.